My husband would even say, "Okay, Becky, what now? What now? They're going crazy. What now?" And I felt really panicked that I was leading us and leading the family down the wrong path. Hi, my name is Becky Jennings, and this is the Responsible Parenting Podcast. I give you the transformational tools to stop reacting to your children in the moment and start responding with intention. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Responsible Parenting Podcast. My name is Becky Jennings, and today I'm going to try to tackle the big, large, huge question of how we can become less reactionary towards our children. Now, this is probably the hardest thing that I have had to learn, and I'm learning it every single day in every moment when my children are asking me the same question for the 100th time, and I feel like I'm going to explode. So, as I'm the default parent in this dynamic, and if you're listening, you're likely the default parent because I found that the default parents usually are the ones trying to find the tools and educate themselves on how to be better at parenting. So, congratulations for being here. I applaud you, and you're doing hard work, and I'm right there with you. So, I want to start to look at why we can be so triggered and reactionary towards our children. And it comes down to some super basic needs that we're often not meeting as the primary caregiver and as the default parent. So let's figure out what needs in our life aren't being met and figure out ways that we can start to prioritize them. So for me, I know that one of my massive needs is sleep. And if I'm not getting good sleep, I am a trash parent. Also, I really thrive as a parent when I have some sort of mindful practice happening, whether that's meditation or some sort of journaling. I do so much better as a parent when that's in my day to day life. So, what are your needs that aren't being met? Is it sleep? Are you hungry all the time? Are you not getting enough water? Do you have a mindful practice? Are you moving your body? What can you identify as an unmet need? And then how can we get that need met? And I know you're like, Becky, if I knew how to get that need met, I probably would have already met it. But sometimes we are just being that mommy martyr and we're just slogging through the whole day and not asking for help because it's become this routine that you do it all. And what I've learned is if you don't ask for help, people aren't going to chime in and just offer help. So, who can you ask for that help to help you meet those needs? I would hope that your partner in crime, if you're doing this in partnership, would be willing to step up to the plate and offer some support. It might not be in all those key areas, but it might be one, and that can make a huge difference. So, let's start to identify those needs and then ask for help to get those needs met. I also suggest looking for patterns. Start to be a detective in your day, right? Start to look for the areas when and where you get most triggered and where you start to lose your cool the most. So, generally speaking, we're better off in the morning unless you've had a terrible night's sleep, but we've usually filled up those reserves and we have a little bit more to give in the mornings. And then usually at the end of the day, we're losing our minds. So look for the patterns in your own life. When do you start to lose your cool? What's going on around you? Who's around you? Where are you? What time of day? What's going on? What needs haven't been met? Start to identify those patterns to see where you are reacting at your worst as a parent. And take note of those and then see what we can do to change the environment. And this is where we start to tap into what is called our grounding tools. So before we even get there, you have to gain this self awareness of what needs are being met and what patterns are on repeat for you. Then you can hit a massive pause button when you start to notice that you're in the pattern, that your need hasn't been met and you're starting to react. So we hit that massive pause button and we grab on to that life raft, to that grounding tool. So, what the heck is a grounding tool, Becky? And that can be very simple. It can be putting your hand on your heart and on your stomach and taking really deep breaths and long, long exhales. It can be that simple to just shift up what's happening in your body. When you're starting to react, your nervous system is sending you cues telling you that you're in distress and you're in danger and your body is starting to get dysregulated. So we're moving out of what we call the green pathway and we're moving into the red pathway or the blue pathway. The red pathway is that fight or flight, and the blue pathway is that faint or freeze. Green is when we're copacetic, we're cooperating, everything's good and mellow. So when we start to move out of those, of the green pathway, and we start to notice our triggers, whether it be clenched hands, a clenched jaw, sweating, rapid breath, our heart rate increasing, maybe starting to feel a little claustrophobic in our bodies, that is our nervous system saying, alert, alert, alert. You're getting out of the green pathway, distress. And it's our job to start recognizing those cues and immediately grabbing on to a grounding tool. So, one of the grounding tools that my kids and I started to do was we would take an inhale and go with me on the sound, but it actually it does something with your vocal cords that it stimulates your vagus nerve and it actually vibrates back into the parasympathetic, which is that green pathway. So you inhale and then you make the sound and it helps get you back into regulation. My kids grabbed a hold of this one and they loved it because not only is it kind of silly, but it actually does get you back into the parasympathetic. So that's one type of grounding tool. You can grab onto a countertop and push against it with all your might, flexing your upper body and really getting back into your body. I know other people who run their hands under cold water. I know people who just start doing jumping jacks in the middle of the living room. One time I had tried many things and nothing was working. So I sat in the living room and I put a blanket over my head and I just sat there while my kids were crazy around me until they noticed. And they said, "What's mommy doing?" And then they came underneath the blanket and we all started taking deep breaths together. So, what can you do in the moment that gets you back into your body and starts to ground you and soothe you? If you're detached from your body and getting in your body is not happening, how can you change your environment? Can you throw on some music? Can you light a candle? Can you go outside? How can you shift the energy before saying something that you regret, before yelling, before bribing, before coercing? So find that grounding tool. And I found something super helpful that allowed my children to understand the shift that was happening is I say everything out loud. I let them know when I'm getting those nervous system hits that I'm not going, that my temperature is rising, that things aren't going well for me. I totally bring them into the conversation. Guys, mommy's not doing well right now. I have about this much left before I start to lose it. Mommy needs to take a big deep breath in because I am not happy right now. I bring them into the conversation so that they know what it looks like to understand the feelings within my own body and then how I'm going to safely discharge that. I do the same thing with my children. I speak out loud for them so that they can start to recognize it within themselves. And then I give them a grounding tool. So, for instance, I can say, "Oh, Hunter, I see that you are getting really amplified right now. I see that your energy is getting super big right now and it's getting dangerous. Let's grab a pillow and let's scream into that pillow as loud as we can." So I'm giving him ways to safely discharge the energy and to get back into nervous system regulation. So by modeling these grounding rituals, we're actually teaching our children how to recognize their own cues, how to safely discharge it within their bodies, and we're preventing a lot of cleanup and repair. So I recommend grounding before, during, and after so that we can get into practice regularly. Grounding before means maybe before entering a room, you're taking deep breaths. Before the day starts, maybe you're doing a quick 5-minute meditation. Maybe you're staying just a little bit longer in the shower and you're inhaling the steam and feeling the environment around you, and you're noticing more deeply the water on your skin. You're getting back into your body more often throughout the day so that you can recognize when your body is sending you those cues, those sensory alerts. Grounding during the moment, pausing before we start reacting to our child and grounding deeply into that moment to stay in presence. We've noticed the cue and we're going to grab onto something. We're going to grab onto the life raft to calm ourselves down, to get back into our bodies before we react. And then grounding after with our children, letting them know what happened, letting them know what you did, and modeling it all the way through so that we're teaching them. And unfortunately, as parents and as humans, we're going to be triggered all day. And so we just have to repeat this ad nauseum until that becomes our default pattern and our routine throughout the day. Now, I was actually really nervous about this. I I have to admit, I thought that this was just going to create a really passive environment in our family where parents weren't taken seriously, that we lost our authority, and that the kids were just going bananas and they thought they could get away with everything because if I'm not yelling at them or if I'm not, sending them to their room or doing a timeout, how are they going to learn that their behavior isn't acceptable? It got to the point where I started to not believe that this could work. My husband would even say, "Okay, Becky, what now? What now? They're going crazy. What now?" And I felt really panicked that I was leading us and leading the family down the wrong path. It was 4 months of doing this regularly, speaking it out loud, talking about my needs. It was 4 months of, God, is this going to work? It's not working. I feel like I'm bashing my head up against the wall, trying these really gentle techniques. It's kind of a hypocritical statement to say, right? Gentle techniques, bashing my head up against the wall. But 4 months later, I noticed shifts within my children. I noticed my son saying to my other one, "Do you think that I like that?" No, I did not like the way that felt in my body. I was like, "Oh, what did he just say?" And I noticed that when I would say, "Mommy's starting to lose it, mommy's temperature is going up," that they would slow down and they would look to me to see what was next, whether we were going to deep breathe or whether we were going to put on music and start to dance. 4 months of in the trenches of modeling this behavior. And I have noticed a deep shift in my family to the point where I emailed the teacher where I've been having some issues with Hunter at school and his impulse control and his reactivity, his constant reactivity to his friends. And I said, "I've noticed a shift in our household. Have you noticed that too?" And she said, "I actually have. I've noticed a shift in the classroom." So I took a deep breath, being like, it's actually working. And I believe that when we stay consistent and we model this in our bodies, we speak our needs, we show up for ourselves, we show up in a way that teaches our children how to do it for themselves. We teach them what it looks like to be triggered and how to respond compassionately, safely, and appropriately. And if you can slog it through and you can get through the challenges, I promise you there is a calmer ending to this. And I know that there's going to be a lot more coming at me, but now I have the skills. And now I understand what is happening in my body and I understand how to slow it down. So I hope that helped. I look forward to continuing more conversations about how to be a responsible parent. Until next time, have a wonderful day and thank you so much again for joining me. Thank you for listening to the Response Able Parenting Podcast. If you like what you heard, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. If you know someone who would benefit from this podcast, I'd be honored if you'd share the episode with them. Until next time, know that you are enough. You are capable. You've made it through all of your hardest days, and we will keep growing on this parenting journey together.